Hi friends, a little message before Rosh Hashanah. I want to share some words of Torah and a story from Rabbi Tamar Elad Applebaum of Kehilat Zion in Jerusalem. She shared the story this summer of her grandfather, Eliezer Cerf, who was fighting in France toward the end of World War II with a group of his friends, partisans, when they were captured by the Nazis and, of course, assured death. And the Nazi commander stood before the group and asked them if anyone would like to share any final words before they were to be executed. And Rabbi Tamar's grandfather responded, "Yes, I am a Jew." And shockingly, the Nazi commander was so astounded by the man's courage that he spared the whole group's lives that day. And she now, today, draws strength from the story of her grandfather and the experience of her brother, Alav Shalom, who was killed fighting in the IDF, and even her daughters, who found the inner resolve to sing even as the sirens were wailing on October 7th of last year around their Shabbat and holiday table. And so she asked the question for these generations of her family and for herself, what is the source of that persistent resolve? She observes, and we see too, families all around the world who could choose to succumb to the darkness and the oblivion, and yet somehow are able to put one foot in front of another every single day. The families of hostages, bereaved families, those who have no home to go back to. Where do they get their strength and their inner resilience? And she draws us back to the primordial story of creation, which of course begins with the words, "When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the water." And looking at a commentary, a midrashic commentary, who asks, what does it mean to confront a world that is unformed and void and darkness? In the commentary, the Psikta Zutarta says, unformed means a thing that perplexes people. Void is a thing that terrifies a person. And darkness is the darkness that darkens a person. These aren't just realities that existed at the beginning of time, the beginning of creation, but realities that we confront all the time, every single day. A world that is confusing, perplexing, dark, chaotic, and unpredictable. And she writes that our charge from God is, of course, let there be light. That our role is not to succumb to the chaos, but to continuously light it anew. To rebel against the nihilism, the claim that the world is ultimately meaningless and chaotic, and to say, no, I am choosing to respond with courage, with song, with resistance and resilience. And I want to note here that this is really different from a denial of darkness. It's easy, and we see responses all the time that just say, look away, ignore it, pretend the darkness doesn't exist. This response is not a denial of darkness at all. This is a response that looks darkness and chaos square in the face and says, I choose to respond to you with light, with love. So what does this look like for us? I think we can imagine, grand stories of resistance like the one of Rabbi Tamar's grandfather. And God willing, very few, if any of us, will ever be put in a position to display such courage like he did. But I think for me, for my family, what this looks like is making small choices every single day to add light, to point out the beauty of a flower in my neighbor's yard to my son, to choose to enjoy the goodness of life, to lift up connection, to reach out to an old friend who's struggling, to say, we choose to be here, to love, to cherish one another in the face of chaos, and to say this means something, this connection, however small, this connection to one another, this connection to the planet, this connection to our neighbors, to strangers. This is what gives life light. This is what gives life meaning. So I want to bless you on this eve of Rosh Hashanah to choose light, to choose creation in the face of chaos every single day. Shana Tova Umetuka.